Everyone. Well, I'm just doing a little review of today's price action. Currently in a hotel waiting for my lovely baby to land at the Toronto Pearson Airport. So just thought I have some extra time on my hands and I thought I'd do one of these. But a very interesting day. I'm gonna start off by, let me get rid of this. I'm gonna start off by showing what I saw this morning. So I wrote that price had consolidated overnight after a rally during Asia. I don't like how we were consolidating at a premium overnight if I wanted to see heavy movement lower. At the same time, I don't feel comfortable looking for higher prices while we're in a premium. So, in essence, this is that kind of sideways consolidation I was talking about. We had a rally during Asia, during the Asian hours, and then price moved sideways, stalled a little bit. Around 9:30, where I do my trading in the blue zone, this is what I tweeted at exactly 9:43. So inside this candle. Now, another thing I want you to note is that new week opening gap kind of supporting price and this 15-minute fair value gap, or I guess is an hourly fair value gap resisting price. Now, of course, I trade with the idea that markets will go up to a hunt premium, then back down to discount, then back up to premium. This is basically what I do, right? But if ever the market runs up and starts moving sideways like this, I usually don't want to see it go back down very violently. It can, but I mean, it needs to do a few things to really show me it's willing to actually go there. So immediately, this is just like a red flag when it's kind of consolidating. Now, dropping down to the 5-minute, my model was present. I didn't take this trade just because of what I said in my tweet. But when we run up above this short-term kind of price swing lower, and then we show displacement, I don't get in because first of all, you can see how large the candles are to the upside compared to the downside. Price is showing much more willingness to actually hunt for higher prices. That, and especially with how we moved sideways. I understand that markets wait for time before moving to liquidity areas because there are certain times of the day that people are more active and so markets are going to move more. So it makes sense if it's going to consolidate during a really dead time. However, this consolidated through an entire session. If price was really at a premium and the London traders, the London session were to get those short orders in and start shifting the market lower, it would have done so during London. So the fact that it's consolidating is showing there's still more buying pressure, there's still more demand to go higher. Um, and if that demand runs out of steam, then it's definitely not going to be heavy to the downside because it would have done so already. And we would have had a better reversal. We would have probably been more excited, more volatile up and down before we really move in one direction. But instead, what happened is we just kind of, I guess, squeezed a lot of short orders. And then finally, markets just kind of had enough, no more sells, and it just ran off during lunchtime. But yeah, for these reasons I kind of mentioned, I did not participate today. There were a few things I was going to wait and see if we were to participate. And I was talking about these this morning, but let's say, instead of sweeping here, we would have had more displacement to the downside. So we would have done something like this beneath all these lows, and it would have been a very large down close candle. Then I would have been willing to see it pull back, and then I would have looked for a mini structure with my entry model. So something like this, where it sweeps this kind of price swing from high low and then higher high, and then we go lower low, and that would be where I get into my trade. That could have been an option, and then this too. but that would have taken a lot more willingness to, that was very unlikely. What was more hoping for was we initially move lower, we pull back, and then later in the morning we have a second move down if I were to do any shorts. Something like this happened last Wednesday, where you see how price moved up in the post market, and then we move sideways, for all of Asia, London moving sideways for the most part, and then New York. Well, it starts kind of a rally, but then New York starts to move sideways until Chicago opens. Around Chicago open at 8:30, we start to move around. It's not wanting to make higher highs. We're moving away from this new week opening gap, so it's not very pretty. And you can see how we have initial huge displacement lower. I believe this was off news. I don't know actually. I don't think so. And then we sweep, and then I have my trade. Now notice how this trade is a very small portion of the day. It's not like making a huge move or anything. So the quality is a lot lower. And that was the same thing I was expecting here, is if we would have had an entry I would have taken today, we would have went something like this, then I would have only really expected to move like this and be done. I wouldn't be sitting here and expecting it to do something like that. And that's because of just how we looked overnight. This is how basically I use discretion to prepare myself, to prepare my expectations whenever I look to take setups. And I think that not only gives me an edge in the actual trades, but it also gives me a very valuable edge in preserving my mental equity. And so, yeah, I just wanted to go through that. And that's it.